Akabo, and welcome everyone to another Ifá Orisa tradition discussion. And today I'm going to read a couple of essay Ifás, and we are going to discuss Ifá, a serious undertaking. That is the subject for today. But before I begin, as usual, I'm going to open with an oriki. Ope nifu olorun oludumare oba ajiki. Mo jiloni, mo wogun meriaye. Iba ila orun, iba iwo orun. Iba Ariwa, Iba Kusu, Iba Oba Igba Aye, Iba Orun Oke, Iba Baba, Iba Yeye, Iba Atiwo Orun, Ibashe, Igungun Kiki Igungun, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Alright, the subject for tonight is Ifá is a serious undertaking. I'm taking the reading for tonight's lesson from a book called The Pathway to Ifá. The same reading is also in the book called The Basic Ifá. Right? This one is by Sologbade Popola. And the other book is by another popular author. And what this section is going to explain through the essay Ifás is to give some idea of the seriousness, and a couple of stories are going to be told of situations that occurred concerning a Babalawo, all right, or a person who is what equivalent to what some people would call a priest, right? But a Babalawo is a little bit more, is a lot more than a priest, because a Babalawo covers, a whole range of different assistance to human beings than simply just teaching of the cosmological concepts. We have to keep in mind that Ifá is a solution-based tradition, and the role of the Babalawo is to relieve human suffering by providing solutions to the many challenges that life has to offer. All right, so I'm going to do some reading now. For a Babalawo or Ifá to claim competence in Ifá, they would have first undergone a series of intensive training, the duration of which ranges between 6 to 35 years and sometimes even more. Ifá is not an easy discipline. It entails a lot of patience, discipline, perseverance, dedication, and intelligence. People do not go into the practice of Ifá for the fun of it. All right? So before I get into the reading of the essay Ifá, I want to just add a few things to what I just read. Now, one of the challenges we have in the diaspora is that a lot of the rules that apply to the training of a Babalawo, it is very difficult for persons in the diaspora to undergo or to subject themselves to the measure of training simply because they are not born in Nigeria. They do not have the luxury of having a Babalawo in their community from whom they can spend a lot of their time receiving training to become a Babalawo or an Ifá. To a great degree, many of us in the diaspora depend largely on the clemency of our Baba Ifá, our Alaba, and different title holders from Nigeria who would come and spend time in Trinidad where they would provide various forms of initiation. Another aspect of that challenge is because many of these persons live in Nigeria, they are only allowed to spend a limited amount of time in Trinidad or in the diaspora. As a result of which, largely, a lot of the communication is done using the normal telecommunication means, social media, or various forms of media where ideas, teachings, and information is exchanged. All right? A lot of times people emphasize, well, there is a need for a person to have a Baba Ifá in Nigeria, or a spiritual father, or an Olowo, who would teach them many things. But to a large extent, many of the persons who come and perform the initiations and the various rituals, for example, the hands of Ifá, do not have sufficient time to sit and to spend in Trinidad to provide hands-on training and teaching of what is required for a person who has entered into that stage of either initiation or through rites such as the hands of Ifá. So because of these challenges, a lot of times, a lot of the training and learning is done through modern media. All right? Whether it's the telephone, the computer, or in a lot of cases, books, online articles, etc., etc. All right? So I needed to add this so that some people would understand some of the challenges. All right? These challenges a lot of time results in a lot of frustration, a lot of misconceptions, a lot of losses, and a lot of misunderstandings. So that is why I'm taking the time off to explain that fundamental difference that exists between persons in the diaspora or who live in the diaspora and who live in Nigeria. Of course, to add to which, persons coming from different cultures, depending on where in the diaspora you are, the practice of the Orisa tradition that has been there for a long time would in many cases have developed somewhat different patterns from what is in Nigeria. All right, so I'm going now to read from the Pathway to Ifá. So also, people do not go to an Awo's house in order to make jest of the Awo. If a client does that, such a client is only deceiving him or herself. For example, in Irite Alao or Irite Obara, Ifá says, Agba inamu shukuwele oro otan nile ye boroboro diafun alao tu keun okun borun tu enfenu ke meme bi ewore ara yin le tin tan je e o tan ife je o alao lo kokun boru eni en fenu ke meme bi ewore ara yile tan je baye o. All right, and the translation is, now Yoruba is not my first language, so forgive me if there were any errors. All right, for all the experts. There is nothing in this land that is not protracted unnecessarily. This was the declaration of Ifá to Alaba, who tied a rope around his neck and began bleating like a goat. You are deceiving yourself certainly. Ifá is not deceived. Look at Alaba, who has tied a rope round his neck and is bleating like a goat. You are only engaging in self-deceit. In this Odu, this is the commentary now. In this Odu, Alaba was advised to offer a she-goat as sacrifice so as to avoid an impending severe ailment. However, this client had gone to the owl mentioned above in order to humiliate them. He promised the owl that he would bring the she-goat the following day. He secured a rope, tied it around his neck, and began bleating like a goat on his way to the owl's house. When the owl saw him, they only told him that he had neither deceived nor humiliated Ifá, but himself. Alaba had a good laugh at the expense of the owl. Shortly after, Alaba went berserk and began howling and bleeping in complete nakedness. His people took him to the same owl. They then went to purchase a matured she-goat, which was used to perform the necessary ebo for him. He then became normal. If anyone thinks that he or she is deceiving Ifá or an owl, such a person is deceiving only him or herself. Alright? There are also people who are not only ignorant of what Ifá is all about, but who also deceive themselves in regard to what Ifá represents. Some think that Ifá is just a mere plaything. Others think Ifá is like any other system of divination they've come across, but this is not so. Those who are having these types of notions about Ifá will attract nothing but contempt from Ifá. In Ogunda Irosun, Ifá has this to say about them. Didun eni tagbon, didun eni toguron, didun en tireke, diafun atankoro, olokberi, tiembu Ikin le kuro lasan, gbogbo atankoro, olokberi, tiwon embo Ikin le kuro lasan. Ogunda Irosun, Mori, Won, Ri, Wori. Translates to: sweetness is for the coconut. Sweetness is for the raffia palm. Sweetness is for sugar cane. Those were the declarations of Ifá to the uninitiated ignoramus, who was denigrating the Ikin by calling it ordinary palm kernel. All the uninitiated ignoramuses who was denigrating the Ikin by calling them an ordinary palm kernel, Ogunda Irosu, I laugh at their folly. If the Olowo in this Odu is analyzed correctly, along with the other parts of the Odu, it means that no abuse, no slander, no bad mouthing, or foul language will remove the sweetness from the coconut. Raffia palm wine or sugarcane also, it means that no envy, no evil language, no curse, or abusive language would reduce or remove the very essence or relevance of Ifá. Among Babalawo and Ifá, there is a song that is very popular. The song goes thus. Emafi Ifá sheyeye o eniyao Ifá a sheyeye o eniyao. It translates to, do not make jest of Ifá. Oh yes, folks, Ifá is not a joking matter. Oh yes, folks. Sometimes it may be the owl who is not serious about Ifá. Such an owl is merely trivializing his or her calling. Ifá knows how to handle and deal with such owl. Several of these instances can be found in Ifá, but in this book we will not delve into the matter. Alright? And that is tonight's lesson basically. Alright, so there isn't much I can add or take away from the lesson for tonight. But what I will say is yes, Ifá is to be taken seriously. Awos, Babalawos, Ifás, persons who have taken up the vocation of Ifá, whether they are from the diaspora or from Nigeria, I do not think that Ifá encourages that people take it as a toy, as a game, or even as a way of enriching oneself. The purpose of Ifá is to mend and to uplift humanity through bringing solutions to the daily challenges that we meet as we travel through life. Life will never be perfect. Life will have its challenges and its ups and its downs. But what Olodumare has done for us is he has provided a means by which we can find solutions to the various challenges of life through Ifá. Alright? Challenges you will always meet. You will always find, just as it mentioned, jealousy and various type of things occurring in life. But the key to dealing with these things is by finding solutions in Ifá. Alright? For the many persons who have found themselves in a position where they need to know more about Ifá, I offer classes, free basic Ifá classes. And then for those who are interested in going further, I offer other classes that are more advanced than the basic Ifá training class. Alright? For persons who have done Hand of Ifá, and even for persons who have done Itefa, who does not know how to appease their Ifá, and who needs to have some of the very fundamental knowledge of what is required after you receive your Ikins, I also offer those training. And I offer them absolutely free. I do not do Ifá to enrich myself. It is not an intention of mine either to highlight or to belittle anyone. All I am simply doing is trying to share the knowledge that I've received. Right? Again, there will always be critics. There will always those who would support and those who would detract. Our responsibility as a human being who is developing their character their personality and their life is to seek solutions in Ifá for the challenges that we all meet. All right, and with that, I would like to say thank you all for stopping in. May Olodumare bless you. May Olodumare bless your family, your extended family, your community, and our nation as a people. Also, may he bless us all. All right, I would like to remind everyone that you do good for yourself. You do bad, you also do bad for yourself. And remember, the term yourself don't just mean you. It also means the generations after you, your children and your children's children. Okay, so let us leave the blessing of Ire for our children instead of curses. All right, and with that, I would like to say Odabo and see you next week. For persons who are interested in more teachings on Ifá, you can go to Ifá Bemero, home of Ifá Orisa tradition on YouTube, where you would see the videos. Other than that, there are numerous platforms on Facebook where these videos are available. All right, Odabo and see you next week.